Hi folks, welcome to a shop update video. We're gonna break this video into 10 sections, use the timestamps to jump around as you see fit. But first off, Johnny 5. A big shout out to Kern and a thank you to everybody who came by and saw J5 in Chicago at IMTS. It was surreal to see him there. There's just something crazy about rolling him into a crate. Shout out to our interns, McCullen and Scott, who built that crate, did a great job. Freighting him to Chicago and seeing him on the floor there, like just super awesome. He actually survived fairly well, which is a pretty big relief. There were some parts that damaged and some repair work we got to do. The bigger thing is kind of this awkwardness of where do we go from here with Johnny 5? And the answer is we're going to basically, ironically, disassemble him, but break it down into sections one bite at a time. And some stuff just needs repaired, reworked. You can see there's some brackets that are bent. Some of this stuff isn't a big deal. Some is, but for now I'm working on the head, and I'm really excited about this because the head is, in many respects, almost done. And for those of you that saw it at IMTS, you could see it was very recognizable. I think it looked pretty good, but it didn't have any animation to him. But a lot of that was already there. So we had the servos, the hobby servos, and there are actually some steppers back here installed, but we didn't have a lot of the circuit boards. So those just came in. So we're doing things like adding this circuit board here. That controls the Adafruit Neo pixels that give the coloration to the eyes, so like the red when he's mad. And then this will also control the servos that gimbal the eyeballs, which a big part of what made Johnny 5 such a successful and impactful robot or movie, to the extent that it was, is the feelings that you got relating to him. And a lot of that came from the eyeball movement and the eye flap. So we're actually pretty close to having some of that stuff there. Literally just a matter of just finish up soldering, wiring some of this stuff in, and then the eyeballs themselves will articulate in and out on this track system here with these steppers that again are already installed. And then the other big one, which is really cool, is this is the lip light PCB, which provides the kind of animation that's synced to his voice. So shout out to everybody in the Input Inc. team. There's so much effort that goes into this thing, but he's still coming along, which is awesome. I did not go to Autodesk University this year, but there was one class that's clearly really stood out, and I've heard great thing about it. And that's the class from Phil Mestenhauser on the updated kind of Lockwood container method workflow. Phil works with Rob Lockwood over at Meta and has spent a ton of time diving into this. And the great thing is that the Fusion file, the 1-hour video, and some of the handouts are all available. We'll put a link to the description, but if you are doing anything in Fusion related to automated workflows with CAM, so 5-axis turning, even just 3-axis milling, when you've heard folks talk about this container method where you have components for your fixturing, for your stock, for your part, this is the sort of next iteration of that. Really cool to see the amount of work that's going into that and automating those workflows. Similarly, tip of the hat and shout out to DSI. They are starting a thing called the Digital Manufacturing Collective, the DMC, which is going to be an online community of Fusion users. The focus here that I wanted to mention is they're doing a Friday video series. I think it's at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock Eastern, where Devin, Phil, Angelo, like Fusion experts are doing kind of open forum Q&A. What are your questions? What are they seeing as the latest and greatest things in Fusion? And I love that because it's something that is just wonderful. Like I think all the way back to when we started this 14 years ago, and there was no online community. There was, you could read forums, but it was very hard to get help. And now we've got experts that are accessible, putting out good content. And I commend DSI. They've got a business model that also offers you the option to upsell it into some of their paid services, post-development, true Fusion support. But there's a lot of us out there that just want to be part of a community or maybe just want to learn. And so I'm really happy to see them kind of starting to build a community around Fusion users, Fusion knowledge, best practices, etc. And the last topic in the sort of Fusion and CAM world for this update is I've been spending a decent amount of time with the Toolpath Labs folks. They made their kind of debut at IMTS. And before I go any further, I should disclose that you should view anything I say about Toolpath with some bit of skepticism because I made a very, very, very small token investment in them because having a conversation with them, seeing what this software can do for automating CAM, a lot of light bulbs went off. I thought it was really cool. I think somebody's going to solve this problem. I certainly hope it's Toolpath. And what I wanted to mention today were there's sort of two really interesting things right now about it, about the sort of technology side of Toolpath. One is, for me, CAM automation. If I want to program parts right now, today, Toolpath does a pretty good job for many parts, not for everything. It's early software, but it can take your 3-axis part, your fixture, you click a button and it will do a pretty good job at putting toolpaths on it. There's some quirks to that. Like I said, it's early, there's bugs. This is not, set it like you click it and you don't need to know anything, but you're going and run your parts, of course, but simulation can solve that, and it puts your toolpaths back into Fusion so you can tweak them as you see fit. The bigger hiccup right now, frankly, is coordinating tool libraries, because it's no point in programming a part unless you know what tools are in the machine or you have available, so forth. So for the folks that want to dive in more, I'm happy to talk about that. The Toolpath team is also doing a great job at doing a lot of hand-holding and onboarding folks that want to see that. So that's kind of the first point, is CAM automation. I mean, I think that's incredible. I love CAM programming, like I genuinely enjoy it, but I don't need to click 2D contours anymore for basic parts. Like I'm good with that. And the thought that this software could do, if not all of it, a lot of it, and save that last 5% for me to go in and really massage it, tweak it, get what I want. Huge force multiplier efficiency thing. And I think there's a lot more that can come out of that, but really exciting. The other thing on Toolpath that I really like is quoting. So what Toolpath realized is the goal might be a lot more around CAM automation, but right now, if CAM automation isn't perfect, it can still be close enough to get you a really accurate machining time. And if you know the machining time and some other variables and so forth, cost, shop rate, overhead, then you can get quotes pretty quick. And again, we don't quote, we're not a job shop, but talking to a bunch of folks at IMTS and seeing them at the Toolpath Labs booth, the light bulb kind of went off that for small shops, and not small shops, larger shops, quoting is a huge amount of work and undertaking. And I think the small shop analogy works great. The mom and pop, or even just the mom or pop guy in his garage, if he gets 7 quotes coming in, that could be the rest of his night or afternoon. And again, it's early software, there's room to come, but the thought that you can dump parts into this and it can start giving you pretty accurate cycle times, that's really cool. The other thing I had to laugh at was when somebody came up at the Toolpath booth and was like, yeah, we have like some sort of like overhaul where they need to requote like 17,000 parts from a long-term project that needs to be revamped. And that was kind of crazy to me, but the light bulb went off. So what I also like about what they're doing at Toolpath is the sort of overall business approach and philosophy approach. Al Watmo, who used to run CAM at Autodesk, is now the CEO there, and Al's someone who has become a good friend, and Al's a great guy. Justin and Andy, they're sort of the co-founders, technology folks. I was talking to them before I ever thought I'd get involved with Toolpath. Really passionate about machining, and they have a very humble approach, we want to earn your trust, we want to do what's right, we want to build a community around this, and it's exciting to me because there's so many parallels and analogies of the progression of technology, but it just kind of made sense that there's a lot that you could do. I don't even want to use the buzzword AI, but for obvious reasons that it's part of the technology and it's certainly part of the efforts around this sort of technology, but it's really cool. So if you want to try it out, I think you can go to toolpath.com, and they're encouraging people to try it out. They're encouraging people to try it out not only with their sample parts, but your parts, like see what it does for you. They're being really open and candid with feedback and where the direction of that's going. So I'm excited to see where that goes. A couple new things going on in the sort of manufacturing and Solders Machine Works side. We sort of quietly released a turret grip jaw for the mod vise. So we sell the jaw. They are available for both the Gen 2 mod vices that were basically any mod vise bought over the last 3 or 4 years is a Gen 2. And then within the last few months, we've upgraded to the Gen 3. So either jaw is available. And then here's the turret jaw itself. And so 1, 2, 3, or 4 of these can go in any of these positions. And it's just simply a way to use your existing mod vise system to hold round parts. They're going great. And I thought I'd show from a fixturing side, we op1 them in the same fixture that makes our top jaws for the mod vise, and then the op2, we're using these 3D printed metal ID expanding clamps, some locating bosses here, 3D printed pins here, a toggle pin here, again says datum, and this fixture started out as aluminum. We're finding we're really quickly wearing through the aluminum in terms of either just wear on the fixture face or the threads. Well, we've helicoiled some, but the better design here was to quickly retrofit it with some pads, and these pads could be replaceable. These are not hardened, but we are starting to do more of that, and I love it. But this has worked quite well, and it's quite rigid, and it gives us the correct sort of clamping force vectors so that we're able to access the full profile of the part, get really accurate parts, get really good finishes on them. This is probably a little smudged, to be honest, but they look great. I'll also cheat here and show you a quick one. These are some hardened A2 fixtures that we're just about to install, and we've already done a set of these 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit this because you could probably criticize and say you should have known this by now, but boy, the difference is just amazing. Those fixtures have been used almost every day for 3 or 4 months now, and there isn't a single scratch or blemish or change to them. You know, there's just something about having that 5860 Rockwell A2 stuff. It's just phenomenal. So we're doing more of that as we go along. The other big change, and for folks that have followed along the Business of Machining podcast, you've heard me talk about this, but we had to pull all the aluminum off the horizontal, and once we realized that that was the course of action that we were going to go for recycling and chip reasons, it actually worked out great, and it gives us the capacity there to grow a lot of the metal products. And we moved all the aluminum stuff over to this VF2. It was really fortunate because when we bought that machine, we ended up getting the 50 tool carousel, which works out to basically have an extra 5 or 6 tool pockets so far to do every product that we want to make out of aluminum, and that was a key thing. I don't want to have to swap out tooling, and we're using our puck chucks, and it's been absolutely great. It is not as great as the horizontal because this does not have overnight run capacity, and you still do have to swap out the fixtures, but swapping them out is quite quick. And none of our aluminum stuff is by any means at a point where we can't keep up with that. So long term, I could see this changing back into some automated machine, but for now, you play the cards you got. This is working out great. And the thing we figured out just recently was an improved way of storing our puck chuck fixtures. We had been laying them on these wire racks, which was okay, but not great. And we had come up with some more complicated ideas, and then the simplicity hit me of a heavy-duty clothing rack that could hold, I think these are 400 or 500 pounds, and then just tried a hanger with some paracord real quick, and then the light bulb went off of, okay, well now I want a better design, and then we realized for now these 3D prints are going to be fine. Obviously long term I want to make sure they hold up and don't have delamination or other fatigue issues, but it's actually great, and it's a great way to prototype. It's not free, but it's almost free. So where we can adjust the thickness and the fit so that there isn't a lot of wobble. We'll probably add some plastic dividers or spacers so that if you move this around, it doesn't bang into each other. But the way the hangers work right now, it's quite rigid, and we'll clean this up more over time. This is literally something we finished prototyping yesterday. But so far, I really like that. The Willemin, it continues to just be an absolute 10 out of 10. We're really happy with it. We are, and have been now for over a month, running it well into the night, unattended, with no real issues. It's just the tolerance, the quality, like we're really happy with it. It still was a major investment, but in terms of what it can do, the parts it can make, and how little time it takes us to switch between parts is really the key investment thesis behind this whole platform. We're starting to do some really tight tolerance work on it, and started doing some research and looking into it. And I talked a little bit about this on the podcast. I actually misread some stats when I was comparing different accuracy terms from machine tool builders, because there's positional accuracy, repeatability, the scale resolution, and one of the things that blew me away is the scale resolution. I believe they're hide and hide. The scale resolution is 0.0125 microns, so 0.012 micron. I think that's 12 nanometers. I actually wasn't even sure if I believe that. Don't laugh. I literally was wondering, could that possibly be a typo? So I checked on Heidenhain, and sure enough, they make scales even smaller resolution than that. So kind of a mind-blowing thing. There's a million other factors that play into accurate parts than just the scales. And one of them is actually the quality of your tools and runout. So we've been chewing on this for a while. It was one of the reasons Grant went to IMTS, was to look at the Rego-Fix system, and short answer is we got it. So the press just came in. We actually just ordered a table for it, and we're going to get rid of this old table here. But it's a simple system. We'll probably should do a video on the whole thing on its own. But the simple reason we got it is, oh shoot, the tool's gone. But you can get an idea of what a ER nut looks like, or collet looks like, and the projection and size on a Rego-Fix. See if I can find one in here. I might have to B-roll splice this in. It's a much narrower diameter, which is really, really key for a machine that has a limited travel and can be as tight as a Willemin. but also really the quality. The TIR, from what we've seen and what other folks have said, is like 0. Like, it just doesn't have run out. And that was phenomenally key for tool life and accuracy when we're machining, especially with really small tools. Grant has done a great job getting the system up and going, and including already 3D printing some trays to organize PG10, 15, and then we're starting to do the multicolored prints to just make it look even more dialed on a Gridfinity system, and this will get even better once we get the table in. We're still getting some of the college stuff organized, but yeah, really, it's been a really nice system so far. It's an investment as well, but we switched a couple of tools over on the verticals to Rego-Fix just to see would there be a difference, because I sort of thought, look, how could a collet system be better than just a big heavy milling chuck that's large but also really stable? And they are seeing a difference on a few of the parts where we were prone to chatter just because of the projection of the tool. So those initial results are good, but by no means conclusive. Anodizing. So we made this crate, I believe we've shown it before, as an improved version for sending fixture plates out to anodizing. That's working great. We had a problem though for how to send out our stimped work. So we sort of, if you don't know, we sort of quietly started up a Porsche valve cover, timing chain cover, and other accessories company about a year ago, and had been working with a aftermarkets guy who's an expert and been really great to work with over at Craftworks on some of these designs for these parts. And we needed a better way to send these back and forth to anodizing. And so kind of the simple solution is just make your own box. So we already had the outside box, but we just laser cut some cardboard on our CO2 laser that allows us to have a nice tight fit. Here's an example of one of the valve covers. Another product, by the way, that got taken off the horizontal and moved over to the VF2. And those sit in there. There's a layer of foam on the bottom, like so. And the same thing for the timing chain covers, just like so. Really happy with how these are turning out though. They look really good. But obviously, if anybody who knows, if you're sending parts to anodizing, half the battle is getting the parts to and back without having scratches or other issues, and we're very much a fan of solve for the simplest solution. We want to make sure it's kind of idiot-proof and you don't have parts of your packaging that can have to be removed or placed back in, to the tune of, even on this crate, it's a totally keyless, toolless crate. It closes up with locks, it opens up with locks. There's no parts that can come off of it or be removed. And so, pardon the word, but it's idiot-proof. Right? It's just the way to do it. 3D printing, we continue to 3D print a ton. Certainly nothing unique about that, but Bamboo has dropped the price of the filament refills, which is nice, but we're still buying this, I don't even know how you say it. I always said ID3, but I think I just made that up in my head. We'll put a link in the description, but you can buy 10 rolls of this stuff for, I better B-roll in the screenshot. It's like 100, it's like 10 or 12 bucks a roll, free shipping, and we've been buying a ton of it. It works great with one caveat, about 1 in 10 rolls for us. When the roll gets to the very end, so you're pulling the filament from a narrower diameter, it will jam up, and at that point I just throw the rest of it away. But otherwise, it's been kind of nice because we print enough to where it's nice to know you just buy 10 rolls of the colors you want and save yourself 50 or 60 bucks for that equivalent amount of orders. And last topic is, if you guys remember, I think I discussed on a shop update video and definitely over on the podcast, but DOITS, days off in the shop. I love this idea of you to kind of take a vacation day except you're at work, so you're doing stuff you don't otherwise do, and that's not always possible, blah, blah, blah. But I've created this to-do list of days of DOITS, and the idea was I could carve out 3 hours, 2 days a week to tackle these projects, from cleaning to organizing tooling to looking at all those topics of things that you don't always get to. And anyone else that's listening as a small business owner, machine, like, we all have these things. And I had this idea in my head that it would be a big success. And I just want to share candidly, it's been a total failure. And I bring it up not to dwell on that, but I could list all the excuses. There's no point though, but it's a topic Grims and I are kind of coming back to. And when I say it's a failure, I still want to come back to it. When I take a look at it, we will do it, but it's a tough thing, like to go from being if you want to use the E-Myth terminology, the technician where you're actually, programming parts or at the machine or tackling very minutia level stuff, and then, managing the shop, answering questions, putting out fires, all that. And then there's like that visionary where you're thinking long-term of R&D, products, marketing strategies, whatever you want to call it. being a days off in the shop kind of falls in that like middle ground area of you're doing big picture stuff that has to do with, hey, I want to change the cultural ethos of how we store stuff. So like even the table we just bought for the Rego-Fix system, I want a table that looks really nice. I don't want a janky 2x4 that we put together a long time ago. I want something that speaks to the quality of the kind of shop we want to run, because I think we're good, but I don't think we're great on some of those fronts. So I bring it up with no other punchline than I want to be candid about where we're doing well and where I think we or even I just need to do better. My excuse, to the extent you want to hear it, is the last 6 months have been a ton of time moving stuff on the horizontal over to the VF2. That's been tied in with puck chuck R&D, which has been great. That's something I choose and want to be involved with. I want to use that product. Every product we have when we sell is something I even personally use a lot. That's already influencing some thoughts I have on it, which is a great thing. And that process is really coming down home stretch. So I will get to it. I think it's a great thing. I love it. And I think it goes back to that great quote about how goals are kind of meaningless. It's the framework you put in place to get to those goals. And there's that kind of existential question of, hey, if I want to allocate 2 hours on a Monday and 2 hours on a Thursday to do my days off in the shop, if I can't do that, then I'm doing something wrong. So it's coming back. Anyways, folks, hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. Take care. See you soon.